Howdy folks, playing a bit of catch up, and this is September, which was a short month for movies because of life and stuff. And because I'm recording this way after September, let's just get straight into things. First up in October was Sully, the Clint Eastwood directed feel-good movie about a competent man doing his job and then standing up for his training and decision making because he saved a whole load of lives, and that's bad somehow. So yeah, this is that one about that Sullivan guy who landed a plane with broken engines on a river and literally nobody died, and you'd assume that that was basically the start and the end of the story, but no, this is more about the build up to what happened, the ramifications, the legal and bureaucratic fallout from it, and wow, I thought it was really compulsive viewing. I mean, even if they do bend the truth in the chronology more than a little bit, as you do. But pretty solid movie. Hard to really fault it. Great performance from Tom Hanks and Two-Face off of the Batman movies. And yeah, 4 out of 5 for me because it really captured the trauma as well as the heavy responsibility of the pilots and managed to make a really compelling and interesting movie. Next up was a superhero romp on Amazon Prime called Samaritan, which is basically a film very much in the style of Unbreakable, the M. Night Shyamalan classic, with a grimy real-world superhero thing going on. But its plot is a bit more like the cross between Finding Forrester with a dash of both The Incredibles and Megamind. And it's all set in a world where a pair of superhero twins once lived, one was good, one was evil, and they killed each other in a big fight, and then 20 years later, this poor neighbourhood kid gets dragged into the fringes of a local crime syndicate while looking for a father figure and some guidance in his life. And of course he notices local bin man, Sylvester Stallone, is super strong, and he gets the idea that he's actually the dead hero Samaritan. Cue lots of bonding, grumbling, some bad stealing super weapons and raising hell, and will the kid manage to convince Sly to pick up the cape and mantle again? Well, what do you think? It's a movie. Anyway, 3 out of 5 for me because Stallone is solid in the role, and the bad guy was that pirate dude off Game of Thrones, and he put in a decent effort. But the film's ultimately let down by a pretty mediocre performance from the main kid actor, and because the budget really didn't stretch to making it great, and the script is pretty dumb. Like, if you haven't worked out the big twist 5 minutes in, then you're probably watching that other Samaritan film. Don't watch that other Samaritan film. And here's a bit of a crackers movie for you. The Fuzz is a cop drama set in a world where humans live side by side with puppets. Like in Sesame Street or The Muppets, or that really god-awful looking Melissa McCarthy movie with a vaguely similar premise. Which I haven't seen, but I've heard nothing but bad things and I don't intend to watch it. Anyway, The Fuzz is about a down-on-his-luck puppet cop who gets promoted to being the head of this kind of fake publicity cop unit where a puppet criminal goes on a murderous crime rampage and he's set out to stop him with his idiot partner. Meanwhile, the story also follows Rainbow, the ironically named grey puppet, who's living out a kind of Goodfellas meets Scarface story rising through the ranks of criminality. Now, this is kind of mental silly fun. It was apparently originally a web series made by the same lot who made a really obscure show called The Puppet Rapist. Yeah, okay. I had to bleep that because YouTube doesn't like that word. But the show isn't actually as bad as it sounds. It's actually really clever. In many ways, it's a very silly, more palatable version of that old series, turned into a slightly more modern, slightly more higher budget version that's kind of funny, has randomly got Rachel Bloom from Crazy Ex-Girlfriend as the sort of gangster's girlfriend who'll cling to the highest climber. I mean, it's nothing special, it's 3 out of 5, but in the land of puppet comedy movies that aren't family entertainment, this is right up there with Meet the Feebles. So yeah, I would absolutely check this one out if you fancy something daft. I also saw a really bizarre movie called The Lobster. Now, you might remember there was a movie called The Favourite that won a bunch of awards and Oscars a few years ago, all about like the Queen and her handmaid, and who was actually kind of a rung-climbing weirdo. Anyway, the same director made this very offbeat film with Colin Farrell as a dude recently divorced who lives in a weird dystopian near future. But it's a future where if you're single, you get sent to these holiday hotels where they try and match you up with somebody, and if you fail to fall in love with someone, you get turned into the animal of your choice. In his case, a lobster. And yeah, it's even weirder than that because the people only seem to go out with other people if they can find a similar attribute, like having nosebleeds or being short-sighted or something. And outside the hotel, there's also this nomadic gang of loners who will punish any kind of romance or physical affection with actual physical mutilation. It's a weird premise and it's a weird film, but frankly, it's excellent. It's incredibly funny, it's blackly comic, and it makes no pretensions about being a nice film in any way. Nor does it, Rachel Weisz aside, ever try to actually make you like many of the characters, who most of them are really obnoxious and murderous and completely psychotic, but it's really dark, really creepy, and occasionally frustrating, but in an intentional way that keeps you captivated. So 5 out of 5, definitely see The Lobster, by far the best thing that I saw in September. Now, honestly, I don't remember when I watched this movie. I think it was either September or October. I completely forgot about it, but yeah, anyway, I bought the Blu-ray ages ago, so why not stick it in here? Now, Pulse, or Kairo, is a Japanese horror movie about a strange spate of people becoming depressed and killing themselves or disappearing, but then appearing to people in the form of ghostly apparitions that seem to come out of smears of black on walls. Now, I'll not go into any more depth in the movie because there's a bit of mystery to it, and it's kind of a sort of a uncovering a mystery story, but it's more about the tone and the feeling than the plot making any literal sense, because this is J-horror from back in the days when they made The Ring and Ju-on, and also known as The Grudge. And it's cited as a classic in that genre, but to be honest, I found it kind of slow, and not as effective as things like Ring or Ju-on. But it was interesting, and it has some really creepy sequences, and at the end of the day, it's kind of a curiosity, and it's apparently inspired a lot of modern horror directors. But 3 out of 5 for me, and it's more fun because of its place in history than the importance of the plot or it being some staggeringly epic piece of cinema. So yeah, that was September, a month where I saw relatively few films, partly because I've been really busy with work and life, but also because I spent an incredibly large amount of time watching TV shows like The Rings of Power, She-Hulk, House of the Dragon, and Crazy Ex-Girlfriend, which I'm still trying to work my way through. But I'll leave those out of this for the time being and just say, some of them were good and the rest of them were really, really bad. But for September, these have been my grumpy opinions.